Good morning, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Fortunately, I am not able to be with you live today, but did not want to lose the opportunity to learn together and hopefully today conclude the fifth chapter of Sefer Shoftim, Shirat Devora, and go through some of the main themes that color the end of the parak. We concluded last week by discussing the, sort of like there was like almost like a list or a tally, who's in, who's out, who helped of the Shvatim, and who really took a step back and shirked their responsibilities and didn't really show up. And this is highlighted in Psukim Tes Vav through Yud Ches, where on one hand, there was some Shvatim, which we'll see Naphtali in particular, and Zevulun, which were very involved in the war. One that there was an expectation that they should have came and didn't, and that is Reuven. Reuven is Bepalgus Reuven Gedolim Chakike Lev. Reuven made a deal with Yehoshua with Moshe Rabbeinu first at the end of Parshas Matos, in that they wanted the land on the other side of the Eber HaYarden, and they said, okay, fine, when you take care of your people, you can fight, then you can go to your land with Reuven Gad Chati Sheva Menashe. And she felt this was part of the responsibility to be involved over here, and they were not. And this continues on. Lama Yashavta Bein Mishpatayim Lishmoa. We're in Pasuk Tesayin. Adarim Lefagos Reuven Gedolim Chikre Lev. And Reuven, she calls Palgos Reuven, that they were indecisive. And this is fascinating about their indecision, because we know about Reuven that Yaakov calls them Pachas Kamayim Al Tosar. He calls them impetuous, that they act too quickly and too hastily. And here you can argue that that's the opposite, that they didn't act too fast, they were inactive. But I think some say that really the acting of hastily and indecisiveness is really the same root. People that are unsure of themselves or indecisive in nature sometimes then jump into something without thinking too much, without calculating all the risks and the benefits and the outcomes of what may occur from their actions, and sometimes way too long. And so maybe this is, Reuven, who they generally are, and this is part of the motif of what they represent. Gilad, the Navi continues, Gilad be'Ever Yardin Shachan, the Dan Lama Yagur Onios, with Asher Shav Lachof Yamim, Al Mifratzav Yishkon. Gilad tarry behind Jordan, and Dan, where's Dan? Dan's supposed to be helping out, and they're not here. Zvulun Am Charaf Nasholamos. Zvulun risked their life, right? They mock death, meaning they were willing to risk their lives to fight in war. And Naphtali Al Miromei Sadeh, expose themselves and open themselves up to by fighting in the open fields, in the open heights. Naphtali, which is important and fascinating, just parenthetical point, is that the Nitziv, Rav Naphtali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, the great rabbinic leader and Rosh Yeshiva in the mid 1800s, writes, has a sefer has a sefer on the Gemara, the commentary on the Talmud, that is called Mirome Sada, because his name was Naphtali. He gets the name from his sefer from this pasuk. Baal Machim Nilchamu Az Nilchamu Mache Kanan B'Tanach Amim B'Gidul Bezek Ketzav Lo Lakachu. Then other kings came, they fought, and again they got nothing out of the war. It sounds like other nations tried to help out Sisera and Yavin in this battle, and they also failed. They did not, their help was for naught. It didn't accomplish anything. Min shamayim nilchamu. And now this is fascinating. Not only, right now we're moving off from these lists of who came, who didn't come. We're going back to the war. Min shamayim nilchamu hakochavim and misilosam nilchamu im Sisera. Not only, literally this means is that the literal interpretation is difficult to understand. Min shamayim nilchamu, in the heavens, there was also fighting, in that the mazel of Sisera was fighting with the Jewish people, and there was fighting in the heavens themselves. The Gemara Pesachim tells us something on this pasuk. Tells us that that's not what was happening, but rather they were like the stars, they were like shooting stars that came to attack Sisera and his army in the war. That there are things from Shemayim, constellations and different things from the heavens that were coming down to attack Sisera during this time, which is amazing. This was completely a miraculous war that was won. Nachal Kishon Garfam, Nachal Kidumim, Nachal Kishon Tidrechei Nafshi Oz. That the Kishon brook, the brook of Kishon, like was swept them away. In that the Canaanim rode into Nachal Kishon, which is very low. It's a very low brook, and even though it was so low, the miracle is that the water swept away Sisera's army. It swept away their army at this point. That's the literal interpretation. The Gemara Pesachim goes on further and says that here the stars swooped down from their orbits and they melted their the armor of Sisera's warriors, causing them to go into, again, it melted their armor and they were boiling hot. They were like on fire. So what did they do? They had to jump into the Nachal Kishon to cool down. And when they jumped into the Nachal Kishon to cool down, it's the waters there ravaged and overcame them. So this is like a 1-2 punch from Sisera. Az halmu ikves to Sisera. Ikvesus mehadaros daharos abiru. The further on this, Rashi, using these midrashim in the Gemaras, says the hooves of the horses melted. Ikvesus mehadaros. They melted over here. Again, this is completely miraculous as to how HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped them. Oru Meiroz Armar Malach Hashem. Cursed Meiroz, the Malach Hashem stated. Oru Arur Yoshveha. Curse its inhabitants. Ki lo va'u le'ezras Hashem. Le'ezras Hashem begiburim. Because they did not come to help Hashem. To help Hashem from the aid of the warriors. So what is going on here? Who is Meiroz? Why are we cursing Meiroz? And who is not helping Hashem? Rashi quotes the Gemara in Moed Katan that Meiroz was ostracized, the Gemara says, for not coming to battle when they were summoned. They were summoned to come to battle, and either Meiroz was a city, according to the Radak, or Meiroz was a name of a leader, and Rashi says Meiroz was the name of a star. So it was something, whether it was an actual people or a person or a star, that was supposed to help them win this war, and they did not come to the aid of Hashem. And just, is that the correct language here? The aid of who? Who are they helping? They're helping Hashem? Helping the Jewish people, helping Barak, helping Devora. Rashi says something here very, very important. It may be obvious to us, but it's important to state. Le'ezras Hashem, kivyachol shemishahu ozer Yisrael, ozer Shechina. Really, what the Navi is teaching us here is that anybody that helps Hashem is helping the Jewish people. So this Meiroz did not help Hashem, meaning they didn't help the Jewish people. Minashim, and now Tivorach Minashim Yael, Eshes Chaver Keni. We go on to the salvation of the salvation, meaning after the war was won, Yael, Sisera ran away, and Yael brought him into her tent and killed Sisera. Yael should be blessed amongst the women, Eshes Chaver Keni, minashim ba'oel tivorach, should be blessed of all the women of the tents. So what does this mean here? That Yael should be blessed amongst all the women, and particularly amongst all the women of the tents. This is obviously referring to her heroism, but in which way? The Rashi tells us Minashim, the Ohel, refers to our imahos, that they were defined, right, by the Ohel that they created, that they lived in and they built up. Sarah, Hine Ba'ohel, Rivka, Yitzchak, Ba'ohel, Rachel, Leah, the Yetze Me'ohel Leah, they had their tents. That Yael is put on a pedestal here, that she is being equated to our foremothers, to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, and that she's blessed amongst all of them, right? She's blessed amongst all of them. And the Gemara here learns out something very important. The Gemara here learns out is that what Yael did is equal to the righteous acts of what they did. Yael slept with Sisera. She seduced him, or she got him, in a drunk, whatever she seduced him. So that is an Avera. The Gemara calls that an Avera Lishma. And the Gemara says, in the name of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, it's Gemara Horios right here, Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Gedol Avera Lishma, Mimisa Shol Lishma. Great is an Avera Lishma, that is done for the sake of heaven. Again, it's something that we should not replicate, but it was done by Yael. The mitzvah, it's greater than a mitzvah that's not done Lishma. So they're equating the acts of Yael to the acts of our great mothers. It's amazing. It's showing how important this was, what Yael did. Naim Sha'al, Chalav Nasna. And now this, again, we said, a month ago already, is that Shirat's Devora is going to paint a little bit of more of a picture of what Yael did. Naim Sha'al, he asked for water, and she gave him milk. Why did she do that? So he asked for water because he was running from the war, and he was probably famished, and he was dehydrated. So he needed water. She gave him milk. Why? Milk makes you sleepy. There was also determination. Is he really paying attention? Does he really know what's going on, or is he like a little woozy from this war? So Rashi says, is he paying attention that he can tell the difference between water and milk? And in a princely bowl, she brought him milk. Again, the goal was here to get him in a more relaxed and tired state. And she treated him in a royal fashion, meaning, you're my guy. Yada liyased tishlachna v'yamina lahamos amalim. Her left hand reached for the tent peg for the yased, and in her right hand she had a hammer, meaning she had both. And the goal was, remember we mentioned the Malbim, is that if he woke up at any moment, she would say that, oh, I'm just working on my, I'm fixing my tents. I'm not trying to murder you in your sleep. Sorry, but and she pierced his skull and skull and killed him. At her feet he sank, lay outstretched. At her feet he sank, lay still. Where he sank, there he laid and destroyed. This pasuk is very repetitive, very verbose. Between her feet, bein ragla karal nafal shachaf. The Gemara here notices that there's 7 verbs in this pasuk. And why are there 7 verbs in this pasuk? To say here, Amr Yochanan Sheva Be'ilos Baal Uso Rasha. She slept with him 7 times to get him completely exhausted at this time. And now we turn to the further ramifications of this war. This is a personal ramification of the war. Sisera's mother. Many may know where I'm going with this, or the Navi's going with this. Sisera's mother, always waited for him to come back. She would sit by the window and wait for her son to valiantly come back on his horse with all the spoils of war and gifts for mommy. But she noticed at a certain point that he was no longer coming home. V'tiyabev im Sisra ba'ad ha'ashnav madua boshesh rechbo lavo. And she started wailing and she started to cry. Where is he? Madua boshesh rechbo lavo. Why is he tarrying from coming? We know the word boshesh. The word boshesh comes from the story of Chet Egel. Vayar ha'am ki boshesh Moshe. Why is that the word that's being used? There's a lot of words. L'chakot is to wait also, or coming late. There's a few different words for coming late. Boshesh means it's more than normal. He should have come back already. You're waiting for your kids. It's too much time. You have a feeling of a sense. Madua acharu pa'amei markavosav. Why are they coming late? Chazal learned from here that Sisera's mother cried 100 wails. She cried 100 times. And from there we have the minhag quoted by the Bali Tosfos in Maseches Rosh Hashanah that we blow the shofar 100 times. There are many different reasons. Why do we learn from the mother of a horrible person that a halacha for Klal Yisrael? Because perhaps that the shofar represents such an innate, primordial, real human cry. That's what the shofar is, and that's really that's Aim Sisera, which is real. It was a mother crying for her child, and that's something that Rosh Hashanah is a heavy day, a real day, an emotional day. We cry about and think about real things. The wisest of her ladies gives answer. She too replies herself. Halo yimsu yechalku shalal racham rachamasayin l'rosh gaver. They must be dividing the spoils that they have found, a damsel or two for each man, spoil of dying clothes for Sisera, spoil of embroidered clothes, a couple of embroidered cloths round every neck, a spoil tzavre shalom according to every neck, right? So this is again, Aim Sisera may be having excuses, reasons that maybe something is going on. There must be something. There's no way she's so confident, right? The other approach that we have is a confidence, right, that people have in life. There's an illusion of control. And Sisera's mother had that. It was a given. He would come back. And here it's very clear he was never coming back. Halo yimtzu'u, we continue with the last pasuk. We conclude. Ken yovdu kol oivav Hashem ve'ohavav b'tzeis hashemesh bigvura. So v'tishkot haaretz arba'im shama. So Devora concludes with a bracha. So just like Hashem destroyed all of our enemies, it should happen so fast. Kitzeis Hashem is bigvura. So just like the sun is rising in the night, so too Hashem should destroy your enemies, and the May's friends be as the sun rising in the night. And the land was quiet now for 40 years. For 40 years, the land was quiet. We'll stop here for today. And Bezrat Hashem, next week, we will continue with the amazing story of Gidon in Perek Vav. Have a great day, great week.